Hi everybody, this is Courtney with Fiber Fox Studios and I want to welcome you again to another Mosaic Monday. We're going to be learning this particular design today that is a multiple of 12 plus 4 at the end. So you're going to be chaining in multiples of 12 plus 4. If you would like to follow along exactly with me, I have a starting chain of 40 chains. To begin working row 1 now, you of course can refer down to the description for a link to the chart in the Etsy store, as well as the information on different yarns and hook sizes that you can use to create this same design. Mine is going to end up being a cowl. So if you are wanting to create a cowl using this exact design, you're going to follow along with me and chain 40. Otherwise, you can use this on absolutely any project that you would like. So we begin row 1 by doing back loop only single crochet, starting in the second chain from the hook. Just going to skip this very first chain, never counting the loop that's on our hook. We're going to skip this chain and work right here into the very next, so in that second one from the hook, and we're going to complete that traditional single crochet that's required at the beginning and end of each and every row. And then from here we're doing back loop only single crochet, so we're working right there in the back loop, picking up one side only and completing our single crochet. So we are going to pause here and come back when you are ready to do the end of row 1. We'll do that real briefly together, and then we'll get started on row 2. Here we are at the end of row 1, and I was working in color A. I believe I forgot to mention that. So my color A is this gray color. We're here at our very last stitch in the row. We just want to make sure that we're always going into that last stitch doing the traditional single crochet. And I'm sure if you're familiar with mosaic crochet, you don't need this step, but just in case, I did want to show it. Now we're going to chain up 2 and clip our yarn and bind off and move on to row number 2. For row 2, I've joined on with color B this time, and I've done the traditional single crochet in the first stitch of this row. You are going to be doing back loop only single crochet, so working in that back loop again. All the way down the row, we're going to do back loop single crochet. So you're going to do your single crochets all the way down the row, and then meet back up with me for row 3, where our mosaic work will finally begin. So you may pause here and come back when you are ready to move on to row number 3. Here at the end of row number 2, I just want to show one last time. We're going to be working here into this very last stitch. We have done our traditional single crochet down here in the first stitch of the row, and we are always going to do that down here at the last stitch of the row. So we have to go under that V and finish out the traditional single crochet. Now we chain up 2 and clip our yarn to bind off. So from here, we're going to assume that everybody is super familiar with this technique. I've done a lot of beginner friendly that are very in-depth. So if you are not familiar, you can hop down to the description below. I will have the Mosaic Monday playlist linked down there so that you can hop over and maybe get a little more familiar with this technique. For the rest of this tutorial, I'm going to assume that you guys know that all of our single crochets are always going to be worked in the back loop only, and that all of our double crochets are drop downs that work here into the front loop that is left by us doing that back loop single crochet. So I'm going to assume that we're all on that same page, and we're going to move on rather quickly through this tutorial. You can always click the 3 buttons up in the corner. There's like a little icon up there. You can click that and slow down the playback on any video. So keep that in mind. If I do move too fast for you, you can slow me down a bit. This is the beginning of row 3. I'm just going to show real quickly how I like to join on. I have color A over here with the slip knot already completed. I'm just going to add color A to my hook, and I am inserted here into the very first stitch of the row. So we just want to make sure that we are never working in this chain 1 space right here. It's a little chain 1. Sorry, let me get in the camera. So there's a chain 1 right here. It's like a side bump. We want to make sure that we're always identifying that very first V and working into that stitch. I like to draw up the loop for color A to begin row 3, and then I chain 1. Hopefully my focus will cooperate. We go back down into that same first stitch. Really important that you get into the first stitch and complete your traditional single crochet right there in the first stitch of the row. So now our repeat for row number 3 begins. This repeat begins with a single crochet, so we're working in that back loop. Very next stitch. Now we do one of our drop down double crochets, so right here, very next stitch. Make sure that we know how to check our work. We want to make sure we're working in the very next stitch because we're going to do 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, here's 2, and number 3. Now we are going to do 1 of our double crochets, dropping down 2 rows below, picking up that loop. It's our front loop. We're going to complete our double crochet. Now we are going to do 1 single crochet right here into the very next stitch, followed by 1 double crochet here into this very next stitch. Now we're going to complete 3 single crochets over these next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And now we will do 1 drop down double crochet. So that's our double crochet, dropping down, grabbing up this front loop. And that ends our repeat. So we're going to recap that repeat. Our repeat began over here with 1 single crochet. Then we did 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet. So now you're just going to start right back over at the beginning of the repeat and continue to work on down the rest of your row. So remember, your repeat will begin with 1 single crochet worked here into the very next stitch, then 1 double crochet right there into the very next stitch, followed by 3 single crochets worked over the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Now we will do 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet. I'm getting under more than just my back loop, so back loop only, and then 1 double crochet, now we will do 3 single crochets over these next 3 stitches. So working there in that back loop, 1, 2, and 3. And then we will end our repeat with 1 double crochet. Pause here and meet back up with me when you are ready to move on to row number 4. I'm here at the end of row 3 and I'm going to give you an example of how your row ends are going to work out. I have just completed a repeat here with this double crochet being the last stitch of the repeat. Now I have 2 stitches left in my row. All of your rows are going to work out exactly the same way. So we know that for the repeat for row 3, it begins with the single crochet working in that back loop. So in the very next stitch, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to start my repeat for 1 stitch, and then I know that I always have to do a traditional single crochet going under that V in the very last stitch of every single row. So that is how you're going to be working your row ends. And if you take a look at the beginning of your row and the end of your row, they will match this way. So that's how we keep very even beginning and ends to our rows. So you will be moving on now to row number 4. We are beginning row 4 now. I've joined on with color B this time with a traditional single crochet right there in the first stitch of the row. And we're going to begin by doing double crochet to begin the repeat. So we're going to do drop down double crochet right here into the very next stitch. And then we will be doing 2 of our single crochets working over these next 2 stitches. So there's 1. And here is number 2. Now we will do 2 double crochets over the next 2 stitches. There's 1. Pull out a little more yarn. And 2. Now we will do a total of 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. Here's number 1. Number 2. And number 3. Now we will do 2 of our double crochets over these next 2 stitches. There's 1 double crochet and number 2. So identify your very next stitch, slide down 2 rows below, and complete that double crochet. Now we will end our repeat by doing 2 single crochets over these next 2 stitches. Here's number 1 and number 2. So we're going to recap that repeat real quick. Our repeat began over here with 1 double crochet. Then we did 2 single crochets, 2 double crochets, 3 single crochets, 2 double crochets, and 2 single crochets. So you're going to start back over with the beginning of the repeat and continue on down the rest of your row. And you will meet back up with me when you are ready to move on to row number 5. We're here at the end of row 4, and I just want to show you real quick. Again, we have the 2 stitches. So this is just a reminder. In the second to last stitch, we're able to restart our repeat, which means in our case, we're going to be doing a double crochet. So we just slide down, do that double crochet. And then last stitch of the row is a traditional single crochet. Don't lose that last stitch. That's one of the places people will get their count off most often, is they will miss that stitch. So we are now going to move on to row number 5. And this is what your work is looking like. Row 5 begins now, and we've joined on with color A. So for me, that's the gray tone. And we are going to begin the repeat for row number 5 immediately. Our repeat begins with 2 of our single crochets. So we're just going to work right there in the back loop. And you can work over your tails as much as possible, just so you have less to deal with at the end. So there's our first single crochet. Now here is our second, working there in that back loop. And working over that tail. Now we're going to do 1 double crochet right here in this very next stitch. So you want to slide down. Finish up that double crochet. Now we're going to do a total of 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. So you're going to identify the very next stitch and work 1 single crochet. Here's number 2 into the next stitch. And number 3. Now we're going to do 1 double crochet right here into the next. Followed by 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Now we will do 1 double crochet. And we will end our repeat for this row with 1 single crochet. Worked right there into the back loop of the next stitch. So let's recap that repeat. Our repeat began over here with 2 single crochets. Then we did 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet. So you're just going to begin your repeat again, working on down the rest of your row. So that's 2 single crochets. So there's 1, and here is number 2. Now we do 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 2 and 3, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches, 2 and 3. Now we do 1 double crochet, and 1 single crochet ends our repeat. This is what your work's going to be looking like. You can pause here, keep working in that same set of stitches all the way down the rest of your row. Meet back up with me when you're ready to move on to row number 6. Remember, when you get down here at the end of the row, you'll have 2 stitches left. You'll begin the repeat in the first stitch right here, and then end with your traditional single crochet in the last. I've just ended the last repeat that I can fit on my row for row number 5. I have 2 stitches left. I'm going to start the repeat right here in the very next stitch. So it's the second to last stitch. I'm doing a single crochet because that's how my repeat begins. And now I will do a traditional single crochet here in the last stitch of the row. So if you take a look, row end matches perfectly with row beginning. So now we're moving on to row number 6. Row 6 begins now. This is what our work is looking like. We've joined on with color B this time with our traditional single crochet right there in the first stitch of the row. We're now going to begin the repeat for row 6, and that begins with 2 of our double crochet. So we're going to identify our very next stitch, slide down, and pick up that bump, the front loop, and finish up our double crochet. And we need to do 1 more double crochet right here in the very next stitch. Now we will do 2 single crochets over these next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Now we will do 2 double crochets over these next 2 stitches. So we're going to identify our next stitch, slide down, and finish up 1 double crochet. We need to do 1 more. There's our 2 double crochets. Now we're going to do 1 single crochet right here into the very next stitch, followed by 2 double crochets over these next 2 stitches. There's 1, and here is number 2. Now we will do 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. There's 1 and 2. And we will end our repeat with 1 double crochet right here into the very next stitch. So let's recap that repeat. Our repeat began over here with 2 double crochets. We then did 2 single crochets, 2 more double crochets, 1 single crochet, 2 double crochets, 2 single crochets, 1 double crochet. So you're just going to start your repeat again to move on down your row. So we're going to start with our 2 double crochets to begin the repeat again. So we got 1 and 2, Now we will do 2 single crochets. So over the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2, followed by 2 double crochets, dropping down 2 rows below. Here's 1, and here's number 2. We will now do 1 single crochet, 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, and we will do 2 single crochets, 1 and 2, and then we end our repeat with 1 double crochet. So please pause here and keep working on down the rest of your row. We'll be back in just a moment to move on to row number 7. For the end of row 6, I'm just going to show real quick. We have, again, 2 stitches left. This will be the last time I show you. So we have our 2 stitches left. We begin our repeat again for the next stitch. So we drop down in this case for row 6 and we complete a double crochet. And then traditional single crochet into the very last stitch of the row, and I chain up 2 and clip my yarn to bind off. And I particularly like to do it this way so that we end up with a knot at the end. I pull that clipped yarn on through, and then I cinch it down to form that little knot there at the end of the row, so nothing ever comes undone. So we're now moving on for row number 7. We're going to be switching back over to color A, so that's the gray tone for me. So row 7 will begin now. Row 7 begins with, of course, joining on with color A, traditional single crochet, and the repeat for row 7 begins with 3 single crochets worked over these next 3 stitches. So we're just going to pick up the back loop of the very next stitch, and we're going to complete 1, 2, tail in the way, and 3 single crochets, my third one. Now we will do 1 double crochet into this very next stitch, followed by 5 single crochets over the next 5 stitches. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we will do 1 double crochet, followed by 2 single crochets to end our repeats. There's 1 and 2. So we will now recap that repeat. We began over here with 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 5 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 2 single crochets. So you will begin your repeat again, and it begins with 3 single crochets. There's 1, 2, and 3. Now we will do 1 double crochet, 5 single crochets over the next 5 stitches, so working straight across. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we will do 1 double crochet, and 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches to end the repeat. So please pause here and continue to work on down the rest of your row, completing your repeat over and over, and then we will meet back up to do row number 8. Row 8 begins now. We've joined on with color B this time, done our traditional single crochet in the first stitch. We now begin the repeat for row number 8, and that repeat begins with 3 of our drop down double crochets. So we're going to do 3 double crochets. There's 1, number 2, and number 3. Now we will do 2 single crochets, working in that back loop as always over the next 2 stitches. There's 1, and here's number 2. Now we will do 3 double crochets over the next 3 stitches. There's 1, 2, and number 3. We will now do 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Followed by 2 double crochets over these next 2 stitches to end the repeat. So 1 and 2. So we're going to recap our repeat. Our repeat began over here with 3 double crochets. We did 2 single crochets, 3 double crochets, 2 single crochets, and 2 double crochets. So our repeat begins again. You begin working in the 3 double crochets immediately. So there's 1, here's 2, and 3. We now do our 2 single crochets, 1 and 2, followed by 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Two single crochets over the next 2 stitches, and 2 double crochets to end the repeat. There's 1 and 2. So you'll keep working in that exact same manner on down the rest of your row. This is what your work is going to be looking like. So an easy cheater way to look at this row is that here at the top of this peak, you will be doing your 3 double crochets. And here in this diamond shape that we're forming, you're going to have 5 double crochets. And all of that is separated by 2 single crochets as you're working. So keep working in that exact same manner all the way down, and we'll be back for row number 9. Row 9 begins now. We've joined on with color A this time, and we are going to begin the repeat for row 9 immediately. And that repeat begins with 4 of our single crochets. So we're going to do a single crochet, total of 4 of them. 1 in each of the next 4 stitches. There's 1. Here's number 2. Number 3. And number 4. Now we will do 1 double crochet here into the very next stitch. And we will do a total of 3 single crochets. Over the next 3 stitches. Now we do 1 double crochet. And we do 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches to end that repeat. So there's 1, 2, and 3. So let's recap that repeat. We began over here with 4 of our single crochets. We did 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets. So now we're going to begin the repeat again, and you're going to keep working on down the rest of your row in that same set of stitches. So for you guys that are going to carry on down, you're going to now begin with 4 single crochets starting over here over the next 4 stitches. So essentially what you're doing here is you're going to be doing single crochets across these triangular shaped sections and framing around these 3 double crochets in this section. So you're going to be putting a double crochet before and after these sets of 3 double crochets. So hopefully that helps you as a little cheater method to finish up this row. We'll be back in just a moment to move on to row number 10. For row 10, we've joined on with color B this time, and we're going to begin our repeat right away. We've joined on and done our traditional single crochet. Now our repeat for row 10 begins. We are going to complete 3 of our double crochets over these next 3 stitches. So you're going to go ahead and drop down, finish up a double crochet. So there's 1. Now we're going to do number 2. And number 3. We will now do 2 of our single crochets over these next 2 stitches. There's 1 and number 2. Now we will do a total of 3 double crochets over these next 3 stitches. So right here where we have our double crochets already, 2 rows below, we're just going to continue that pattern on up by doing a double crochet directly on top. There's number 2 and number 3. We will now do 2 single crochets over these next 2 stitches. There's 1 and 2. And we will do 2 double crochets to end our repeat. Next 2 stitches. There's number 1 and number 2. So we're going to recap that repeat. We began over here with 3 double crochets. Then we did 2 single crochets, 3 double crochets, 2 single crochets, 2 double crochets. So you're going to keep working in that exact same manner on down the rest of your row. So begin your repeat again, doing 3 double crochets immediately. There's 1, number 2, and number 3. Now we do 2 single crochets, 1 and 2, followed by 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3, 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2. And then we end the repeat when we get here to this triangle diamond shaped section by doing 2 double crochets. There's 1, and here is number 2. So that ends the repeat again. So I've done the repeat twice on this row with you. I've done that a few times throughout this. So you can pause here, meet back up with me when you are ready to move on to row number 11. We're back and we are ready to move on to row number 11, switching this time over to color A, and we're going to begin our repeat immediately. We're going to be doing a total of 3 single crochets over these next 3 stitches. So just identify that very next stitch and begin doing your single crochets. There's 1, 2 and 3. Now we will do 1 double crochet right here into the very next stitch. 5 single crochets over the next 5 stitches. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1 double crochet in the very next stitch. And the repeat 1 with 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. So let's recap that real quick. We did 3 single crochets to start our repeat, 1 double crochet, 5 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 2 single crochets. So we'll begin again, starting the repeat again with 3 single crochets, 2 and 3. We will do 1 double crochet, 5 single crochets over the next 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1 double crochet, and the repeat ends with 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. So you're going to keep working in that exact same manner on down the rest of your row. A cheater way to look at this row is you are doing 5 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 5 single crochets, 1 double crochet, all the way down. So as long as you've got your beginning row position correct, if you keep working the 5 single, 1 double, 5 single, 1 double all the way down, your row will remain in the correct position and you will be good to go. Row 12 begins now. We have joined on with color B this time. We're going to begin our repeat for this row by doing 2 of our double crochets. So working right here into the very next stitch, we begin by doing the drop down double. Here's 1, and here is number 2. Now we will do 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. We will do 2 double crochets over the next 2 stitches. 1, and here's number 2. We now do 1 single crochet right here into the very next stitch, followed by 2 double crochets over the next 2 stitches. There's 1 and number 2. We will now do 2 single crochets over these next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. And 1 double crochet right here over this very next stitch, or into this very next stitch, will end our repeat for this row. So we're going to recap that repeat. We started over here doing 2 double crochets, 2 single crochets, 2 double crochets, 1 single crochet, 2 double crochets, 2 single crochets, 1 double crochet ends the repeat. So you're going to keep working in that exact same manner on down the rest of your row. Complete row 12 and come back when you are ready to move on to row 13. Row 13 begins now. We've joined on with color A this time in the first stitch of the row, and our repeat will begin with 2 single crochets over these next 2 stitches. So we're going to do a single crochet right here in the very next stitch. Here's 1, and here is number 2. Picking up that back loop only. Now we need to do one double crochet into the very next stitch. Try not to split your yarn. One double crochet. Now we will do a total of 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, there's number 2, and number 3. We will do 1 double crochet right here. So we're here in the middle of our X shape. We're going to do a double crochet right here, followed by 3 single crochets over these next 3 stitches. There's 1, 2, and 3. We will do 1 double crochet right here in the very next stitch. And 1 single crochet to end this repeat. So we'll recap that repeat. We began over here with 2 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet. So obviously we know we're going to begin our repeat again by doing 2 single crochets. So there's 1 and 2 to start our repeat again. And then we will do 1 double crochet right here into this very next stitch, followed by 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. 1 double crochet right here in the very next stitch. 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. We'll do 1 double crochet right here. And the repeat ends by doing 1 single crochet into the very next stitch. So you're going to keep working the exact same manner on down the rest of your row. Here's what your work is looking like, and we will be back for row 14. We've only got to make it up to row 16, and then we'll be able to rewind from there and keep moving up on this pattern. Row 14 begins now by joining on with color B. So for me, that's the blue tone color. Traditional single crochet in the very first stitch of the row. Then we begin the repeat. Our repeat begins with 1 double crochet right here worked into this very next stitch. Then we do 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Now we will do 2 double crochets over these next 2 stitches. Here's my first double crochet. And here is my second. Working right there in the very next stitch. Now we will do 3 single crochets worked over the next 3 stitches. There's 1, 2, and 3. Oops. Followed by 2 double crochets over these next 2 stitches. There's 1 and number 2. Now we will do 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches to end our repeat. So there's 1 and here's 2. Let's recap that repeat. Our repeat began over here with 1 double crochet. Then we did 2 single crochets, 2 double crochets, 3 single crochets, 2 double crochets, 2 single crochets. So we would immediately begin our repeat again by doing 1 double crochet here into the very next stitch. Then we would do our 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2. Then we will do 2 double crochets over the next 2 stitches. There's 1 and 2. 3 single crochets right across this section here, working 1 into each stitch. There's 1, 2, and 3. 2 double crochets into the next 2 stitches. 1 and number 2. And then our repeat will end by doing 2 single crochets over these next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. So you can pause here and come back and meet up with me when you are ready to move on to row number 15. We've got those 2 rows left, and then we will be complete, and we'll talk about how you keep moving up for additional repeats of the pattern. Row 15 begins now. We've joined on with color A this time, and we're going to begin our repeat by doing 1 single crochet here into the next stitch. So working in that back loop, we are going to pick up and do our single crochet. Now we will do 1 double crochet into the very next stitch. So right here, one of our drop downs. Now we'll do a total of 3 single crochets over these next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. 1 double crochet here into the very next stitch. 1 single crochet here into the very next stitch. 1 double crochet here into the next. 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And our repeat will end by doing 1 double crochet right here into the next stitch. So let's recap that repeat. It began over here when we did 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet. So you're just going to begin your repeat again immediately doing a single crochet and so on, and then we'll be meeting back up when you are ready to move on to our final row, which is row number 16. Double crochet, then we have 3 single crochets and 3, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and 3, and then the repeat will end with 1 double crochet. And this is what our work will be looking like as we finish up row number 15. So we'll be back in just a moment for row 16. We're back and we are going to complete the last row of this tutorial, row 16. So we're joining on this time with color B, traditional single crochet of course. And now our repeat will begin by doing 6 of our back loop single crochets over the next 6 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we will do 1 drop down double crochet. So our double crochet goes right here in that center of that square. One double crochet, and then we end the repeat by doing a total of 5 single crochets over the next 5 stitches. So there's 1, here's 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that ends our repeat, that 5th one. So let's recap that. Our repeat began over here by doing 6 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 5 single crochets. So you'll just begin doing your repeat again immediately. So I'm starting again. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that brings me to this point in the project where we have this little square. That's where our double crochet goes. And then we end the repeat by completing 5 single crochets over the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So essentially what you're doing here is across this section right here. So get you a good look. You're going to have 11 single crochets. So you can keep working on down your row and think of it as double crochet, 11 single crochets, double, 11, and work in that manner. But your repeat is 6 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 5 single crochets, and you keep working in that same set of stitches on down the rest of your row. We'll be back in just a moment and we will talk about how you move on and continue to work up for additional repeats. So for those of you who are wanting to work up for additional repeats of this pattern, you are going to be rewinding back to row 3, and you will complete row 3 through row 16 over and over as many times as you would like. We're going to have a really interesting design when we finish up and go back to row 3 and do row 3 through 16 over and over. It's going to create a completely different look as we move up. We will see these shapes and then others will begin to appear as we transition and create more repeats of the pattern. As always, I appreciate you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying these mosaic tutorials or other crochet tutorials, as I tend to do them every single week. Until next time, bye for now.